Okay, so now we're going to move along with part two, and we're going to get started with the texturing. But before we get to that part, I want to throw in some basic lighting just to kind of get us started. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to match the image for the background because we're going to be using this same background here that I used. So let's throw in a background object. So we'll throw that in, and let's also make a new material. I'm going to go into the luminance channel, deselect everything else, and in the description to this video there's a download link where you can go and download a zip folder with a couple of materials in it, or actually not material but a couple of texture files. So if we go in here to it, you've got 4 whole textures and you've got the atmosphere which is the HD, I believe it's 1080p. So we want to take this and drag this up here into the luminance channel. Alright, so we got 1920 by 1080. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the render settings and I'm going to change the output to 1920 by 1080. Okay, so now we can take this material and drag it onto the background object. And there we go. Now the issue with this is that sometimes it can be a little annoying. And the reason why it's annoying is because no matter what angle you move at, the background object always stays at the same projection. That's because the background object uses frontal projection. So sometimes it may get a little annoying, and in that case, just flip it off. But we want to use it as a reference. So what we want to do is we want to add the sunlight first. Now, obviously you can tell the sunlight is coming from way back over here. So we need to line this up where we want it. So maybe something like over here on this side or somewhere in the middle, maybe about right there. All right, so I think that angle right there will look pretty good. So what we want to do is we want to keep that angle and remember it. So let's create a camera, and we want to right click on the camera and give it a protection tag. And what that does is the protection tag locks off the position, scale, and rotation values. That way you cannot take the camera and move it. You can't do anything to it while this protection tag is on it. I'll just hide that. Okay, so that's the angle that we want, and we also want the sun. Now the sun is kind of like down here at the bottom, whereas in my image I had the sun kind of coming over from the side. It was up a little higher. So I'm going to create an area light because in this scene right here that I rendered, I only had 2 lights. Both of them were area lights. Believe it or not, it was only lit with 2 lights. No global illumination, no ambient occlusion. So I'm going to create a light, an area light, and I'm going to turn on area shadows. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind is area shadows will give you the most realistic shadow look. However, they take a little longer to render. So if you're using a slow machine, you may want to change that over to maybe some type of other light with maybe a hard shadow, and that will kind of work a little better. You don't want soft shadows because this is direct illumination coming from the sun. It's not going to be soft. It's going to be very bright, very strong, very contrasted. So you're going to want a hard shadow. However, I don't want to use that, and my machine will render this just fine. And so I'm going to use area shadows. Okay, so it gives us an area light. You can see here what that looks like. It's just coming in as a square shape, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to use a square shape. I actually want to emit light from an object rather than emitting it from the light. So I'm going to create a, let's create a sphere, and I'm going to scale it up, and then I'm going to give it, let's do 45 segments. I'm going to make it editable. And I'm going to take the light and drop it as a child of that. Now you don't really have to do this, but I like to keep the object and the light together. And this is going to be the sun. So we want to take the light and we want to go into the details tab. And for the area shape, we want to change this to object, spline, and we need to take the sphere and drag that in to the object. Now this sphere is going to emit light for us. So what we want to do is we want to click on the sphere, and we want to push that off way out there into the background somewhere, off to the side, and more than likely I'll go up with it a little bit as well. Maybe we'll go a little bit more. All right, so something like that. We'll jump into the camera. I'm going to go to my render settings and I'm going to take the anti-aliasing to none. That way these preview renders that we make here will just be really quick and fast. Okay, so that actually looks pretty good. I think the angle of all of that looks pretty good. We could probably take the light and go over just a little bit more. So let's take light and go over just a little bit, maybe up a little bit more. Go back to the camera, render that again. All right, so I think that angle right there looks pretty good for what we want to do. Okay, so this is going to be the sunlight. So I'm just going to rename this to sun. And we want to give it a bit of an orange color. So we want to go into the light, to the general tab, and we want to pick a color here. We want to go up here to the orange, yellowish color, and we want something maybe about right there. Maybe just a little bit wider. We just want just a slight tint of orange, yellow color to it. That actually might be a bit too much orange, so let's take and go down a little bit more towards white. All right, that right there looks pretty good. Now the next thing that we want to do is create the bounce light, or actually not the bounce light, we'll get to that in a little bit, but what we want is the overall diffuse lighting. And of course you're up here in the upper atmosphere, and if you're in the upper atmosphere, you're gonna want to have a bluish tinted diffuse look. So let's create an area light, and we want to change the shadow to area. I'm going to go to the details tab, and we want to change the area shape to hemisphere. All right, so what this looks like is just a little hemispherical type dome. So what we want to do is we want to turn it upside down. So we'll go over to the coordinates, and we just want to flip it upside down, so 180 degrees. Go to the details tab. First we want to bring this up above all of this. And we want to take the size, and we just want to go out with that. Now more than likely we're going to have to go out quite a bit of ways here. So let's just go with 5,000 for all three of these values. Like that. Go back over here to the general tab, and we need to select a color. So I'm going to turn the background object back on. And we want to pick a color here. So let me get rid of the grid out of the way here for a moment so we can see it a little better. So I'm going to pick the color here, and I'm going to click on choose screen color. And what I want to do is I want to pick let's pick like a bluish color somewhere in there. Maybe we'll take that up a little bit, something like that. All right, so I'm going to turn the sunlight off because I just want to see the diffuse right now. All right, so it needs to be a little brighter. So let's go up here to something like that. All right, so let's turn the sunlight on with these two combined, and let's see what this looks like. All right, so that doesn't look all that bad. Probably what we're going to need to do here is play around a little bit more with this light here. I'm just going to call this blue diffuse. And let's see about picking a color something darker. And not that dark. Let's go a little bit brighter. All right, so obviously that's a little too dark. So let's take that back up. All right, that's looking a little better. Let's go this way with it. All right, so you see the idea of what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of playing around with this until I get a fairly blue tint look to this, what we may need to do is just take the brightness of this up a little bit. All right, so I think that looks pretty good right there. Maybe there's a little too much blue to it. Maybe we can actually add a little more of a green tint. Something like that. Ah, that's too much green. Okay, so that right there looks pretty good for right now for what we want to do. All right, now we're not really picking up any specular highlights because we just have the default gray model look to this. Okay, so in the folder that you can download with that image in it, you can have the 4 whole textures, so you can pick any one of those that you want to use on any part of this. I put 4 of them in there because I think 4 will be just enough for what we're doing here. So we're going to create a new material. And we're going to go into the color channel. And for this one, I'm going to use this material. Let's try, I don't know, let's try this one here. Put that into the color. And I'm going to right click here and choose copy. And then we want to come down here to specular color and paste that one in there. Take the specular, go up with it. And we may need to go a little higher than 100%. Let's try something like maybe 200, maybe. And we want to take this and apply this to, I don't know, let's try this top part. So we get out of that camera. I'm going to hide both of those lights. All right, so there's the top. We'll take this material and we'll drag it in. And we probably need to change this over to cubic. And we need to scale it up. So I'm going to make sure you click on the material, click on the object. You got those 2 things highlighted. Come over here to the texture axis mode tool. Grab the scale tool and scale it up. All right, so we'll quickly render that, see what that looks like. I don't know if I want this material on this object here or not, but let's see, let's make a new one. So I'm gonna make a new material. And I'm gonna drag in, let's drag in this one here. I'll tell you what, let's go to 51L. So we'll drag that one in. Copy that one over here to the specular color. Take the specular and go up with it. And we may want to put it in the diffuse as well. So we'll take the diffusion channel and paste that in there. Now that's way too much, so we need to bring this down. So we'll go to maybe, I don't know, maybe 20%. All right. So we'll take this and we want to drop this one over top of this material. Probably come down with this a little bit. And then just kind of line that up. Something like that. All right, so that looks pretty good. All right, more than likely what we need to do is take the sun object and just go up with it. Just to get the light coming from the top a little bit more. So we'll take the sun and we'll go up with it like that. There we go. Now that looks a lot better. All right, now of course you can play around with the texture more if you want to. Probably what we could do is shrink it down maybe a little bit more. Or we can go a little bit more with it. All right, now the camera is not going to be getting all that close. So I'm not really all that concerned about the bump channel or the displacement channel or normal channel or anything like that. So all I'm going to be concentrating mostly is just color and specular and maybe some diffusion. Maybe I'll turn this down a little bit. Take the specular and maybe go a little wider with it. Go a little higher maybe. Okay, so let's do some for these top domes up here. So I'm just going to make another new material. And for the top dome, I'm just going to take this one and drag that one in there. Copy it, paste it over here to the specular. Take the specular up quite a bit. Maybe make it a little wider. And we'll take this and drop it over to our dome. Drag this one here down to our other dome. And we probably don't even need to play around at all with that. The projection should be okay. It's UVW. Let's render that and see if that's going to look right on there. Let's take this one and let's change this projection to spherical. That didn't do much. Let's try cubic. Cubic is probably going to look really, really weird. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll change this back to UVW, but what we'll do here is we'll take, and I want to be able to see this a little better, so I'm going to turn off specular. And what I want to do is I want to shrink this down. So we'll click on the material and we'll take the offset here. I'm sorry, not the offset, we want the length. And we just want to scale that down. Let's try something like 50% and 50% there as well. Maybe a little bit more, 35 and 35. That looks pretty good. And then we'll go up here to this one and we'll do 35 and 35. Yeah, now that looks a lot better. There we go. All right, so we'll render that. That looks pretty good. Oh, we need to turn specular back on. All right, that looks pretty good. We need to have some more blue from our blue light. So let me, if we render this from the camera angle, we need to take this blue diffuse and need to just take the brightness up. Let's try 150 and see what happens with that. Oh yeah, that's a whole lot better. Kind of bright, but maybe we'll bring it down to 135-ish maybe. Okay, yeah, now that looks a whole lot better. All right, so we've got some basic lights set up. We're playing around with the material. You can basically see what I'm doing here. I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time on this because the shot's not going to require the camera to get in close. So we really don't need a whole lot of detail there. So I'm going to create a new material. And this is going to be all white. And better yet, let's just choose color and go with white. We'll take the specular. Where's the specular at? There we go. We'll go all the way up with that. And we're going to apply this over here to our tanks. We'll see if those turn out to be white. We may need to add a little bit of luminance to them. So let's turn the luminance channel on and let's take the value down to maybe about 15%. We want a low value. This is going to fake some of the bounce light. So if I, let's see, if I go over here and I choose, let's see, where am I at? Interactive render region. And I want to render out just this little area here. So here is the brightness. I'm going to take this up to 20%. Now you can watch these air tanks over here. And if I turn the luminance off, you can see they darkened up. If I turn the luminance back on, they brighten up. So what we want is probably a value of about 15. And that's just going to kind of help to brighten up some of the darker areas in there. All right, so now we just want to apply something down here to the bottom. So let's go back and let's choose, which one haven't I not used? Okay, this one here I haven't used yet. So we'll do that one. Copy, paste it over to here. Take the specular. Let's go up with that. Okay, we may need to go up with it a little bit more maybe. So let's take it and drag it over here to the base. And we need to change this to cubic. All right, now this is going to probably look a little weird because we've got a lot of repeating pattern in there. So of course that's not really going to look like I want it to. So we may need to change the material up a little bit. So let's grab something like, I don't know, maybe this one here and replace it. You can make your own material if you want. I'm just kind of going through these, and I only picked just a couple of them. All right, so I just want to make sure we're going to get some of these highlights. You can already see, even though we don't have anti-aliasing turned on, we are picking up some highlights there on that on those edges, which is looking really good. All right, so obviously this is the way the textures are going to go. You're welcome to apply your own texturing to it. I just kind of wanted to show you just the basics of what I was doing. Again, if your camera is going to get in close, then what you would want to do, say for example, this one right here. You want to take this image, and if your camera was going to get in close, you want to, of course, apply this to the bump channel or to the normal channel. But with the normal channel, you have to convert your grayscale image over to a normal. So in order to do that, you're going to need a plugin called Height to Normal. So let's see here. I'll just quickly go through this. If I copy this image, we activate the normal channel. And what we want to do is you want to go to the plugin called Height to Normal. It's a free plugin. You can just search Google for it, or better yet, I'll just put a download link in the description to this video in case you want it. It is free, called Height to Normal. So we'll turn that on, and you need to paste in, see, we'll go into Height to Normal, and then we want to paste that into there, and now there's our normal image. And if we were to try to render this, you can already see in the viewport what it's looking like. It looks like someone took a sledgehammer to it and beat the living daylights out of it. But there it is there. Now, of course, I'm not going to use the normal channel in this because it makes it look like this dome is made out of rock or some type of rough concrete material, which I'm not going to do. But you can always play around with some of these settings here and go back up here and take the strength maybe down to something like 4. And that will add a little bit of a crease to it, kind of like what the bump channel does. All right, so anyway, I'm just going to clear that out because I'm not really worried about the normal channel right now. All right, so there's the basic setup so far with the lighting. The dome area light is looking pretty good. We could probably go a little bit more with the detail because right now, if we were to take these, let's see, where is the shadow? The accuracy is 75, minimal and maximum samples are at 8 and 100. Now for the preview renders, this is just fine. If your machine is a little slow, you could probably back these numbers down. But for the final render, what I like to do is the minimum samples I'll either take to 16 or 24, and the maximum samples I will take to either 128, or in some cases, if it's looking a little too blotchy, because sometimes these area lights will produce graininess. And if you've got a lot of grain and dirty and blotchiness in your render, you may want to take the maximum samples up even a little higher, say maybe 256. But for the most part, a value of 16 and 128 usually works really well for final renders. And the accuracy, you can leave at 75%. If you take that up higher, like up into the 90s, that's just going to increase your render time even more. All right, so that about wraps up this part on the texturing and some basic lighting. In the next part, we're going to get into the lighting a little bit more because I want to explain the primary bounce lights that we're going to create. And one of them we're going to create it's going to be kind of cool the way we do it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about how to fake global illumination in some areas just to kind of get a really nice feel to it. So that wraps up this quick part on the textures and the basic lighting, and I'll see you guys in the next part.